do that.
This meeting is being recorded.
And thank you for joining us today. As that message just says, this meeting is being recorded. But we're going to just start off our meeting as we always do. We're just going to invite for a moment of prayer. So those of you who would like to join us at this time in prayer, let's do this now. Thank you. Father, we just thank you for keeping us today. We thank you for the opportunity that you have given us this day. We pray even now, Lord Jesus, that you will continue to watch over us. Thank you for your mercies and your goodness towards us. And we ask that your will be done. And we look to you as our provider in all things, as we give you thanks. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, colleagues and friends, just to say that, as always, these meetings will be recorded. The main reason why we record this is because we see these meetings as very important. I get some feedback, Desmond, so if you probably go on mute. Yeah, great. These meetings, we do put the recordings onto our website and windrushnationalorganisation.com, and they're available for future use and reference point as well. We do obviously see these meetings as an opportunity for you to engage and ask questions concerning any issues regarding the Windrush status and Windrush compensation. And that's why we built up a long-standing relationship with the Home Office to do that. And as you know, and we have gathered, it's an opportunity for you to actually ask questions of Home Office staff who have made themselves available. We do that respectfully, and we can still do that with passion, but we do that respectfully, and we do that in a way in that we continue to get answers as best we can. And sometimes what happens is we may not be able to give the answer straight away. And so we have a really helpful standing agreement with the Home Office that we can actually contain those questions. And then later on, if they have the ability to actually give a full answer and written answer, they will provide that to us. And so I know sometimes we want an answer straight away. And sometimes we do hope that we can get that, but please be aware, if we can't, we do have a means whereby there is a working agreement to actually get that information as well. Hopefully everyone is familiar, but we will be using the same protocols in terms of when we come to the Q&A, that we just observe to use the hand functionality and raise our hands and so forth for to engage as well when it comes to those points. So we do have members of the Home Office staff, and I'll invite in a moment Bishop Desmond Jado to tell us who they are. But just to remind you of our agenda for this evening is that there will be we're going to be having a Windrush National Organisation update from Bishop Desmond Jado, and then we'll be moving on to our Home Office presentation. And one of the elements that we're looking at today is a long-standing element around the overseas engagement. Then there will be a Q&A session. Then we'll be getting an update about our Windrush National Organisation conference in October. You'll be hearing a bit more about that. And then we'll have any closing remarks and at the end of the session. We aim to end this session at 8:30. 8:30 finishing time, and we really do want to observe that and have a hard finish at 8:30. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Bishop Desmond just to mention, if there are any media people on the call, if you could make yourself known and visible to us, so that we are aware of that if there is any media people on the call. If not, and then I'll hand over at this time to Bishop Desmond, our chair of Windrush National Organisation. Bishop Desmond.
Yeah, thank you, Reverend Clive. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our meeting. As Reverend Clive has said, it's the first one since Windrush Day and also the unveiling of the Windrush Monument. Tonight, it's an important topic that we've been talking about for quite some time, and it's an important topic. It's about overseas engagement. And this has been something that is a part of our strategy document anyway, as an organization. And if you want to see our strategy document, it's available on our website. And importantly, reaching out to people who have been caught up in this overseas is just as equally as important as sorting people out who have been caught up in the issues in Windrush here. I know for a fact, even we've been involved as an organization in assisting people to return to the UK. Getting compensation for them has been a little bit harder, but the issue is people are receiving assistance in returning, and we know of the case, and he's always coming on. He's promised he'd try and get on tonight. Richard Black, for example, where there is some light at the end of the tunnel of that case. So it highlights that we don't really know how many people are caught up in this, but we do know that we've got to build greater bridges so that people can get in touch in the confidence that they will be taken seriously and that this can be sorted out. So as Reverend Clive said tonight, one of the things we pride ourselves on with these meetings, we've come a long way. The meetings are far, far more constructive now. And, you know, we try our best to ensure that we get the answers that we need to get. So from the Home Office this evening, we've got the new Kate, which is Mark. Mark, would you just like to introduce yourself very briefly, please?
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. Sorry, there's two Marks. I think I'll come in then Mark.
Well, Mark with the beard, that's similar colour to mine.
All the best people have it. Yours is a better colour than mine. Mine's showing my age somewhat. But yeah, delighted to be here and again, and it's a lovely opportunity to see and hear from yourselves. Really looking forward to this evening. As we said, this is a chance to find out more about what is happening in our outreach program, but also we are very mindful of and thoughtful of what more we should be doing in the Windrush space more generally, not only in terms of this, but at sort of the wider spirit and intent. So that sense of Wendy has had a revisit, but that is not the end of our work. She very much talked about us being at a tipping point as a department, and where we really going to grasp this opportunity, and both in terms of what we needed to do and what we wanted to do. And we are very clear as a team that what we are going to do, both in terms of that wider spirit and intent, as well as the recommendations themselves. And for us, it's a really important opportunity as well to make sure we've just joined a different part of the organisation that's looking at how we're transforming as a whole. So it means that Windrush is right at the heart now of how we are transforming as a department. Which is, I think, exciting for us as an opportunity to make sure that Windrush really is represented as a community and an event and a set of learnings and lessons for us. That transformation process.
Thank you very much for that, Mark. We've got Mark here filling in for Gabby. We've got Azar as well, who's providing some backup for our presenter tonight from the Home Office is Angela Wilson. So welcome, Angela, over to you. And Azar, just to let you know that the screen's been enabled for you to share as well.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. So I'm Angela Wilson. I head up the Windrush engagement team. I work with Mark Osborne and previously Kate Ridley-Moy in the Windrush engagement program. And I'm very happy to be invited to speak to you today about our Windrush overseas engagement. As Bishop Jadu has said, a very important topic, a lot of interest about what we're doing to reach people who now live overseas. So I'm happy to update you on the activities we've been taking in the last year to make sure we do reach and raise awareness of people who now live overseas. As on the next slide, that is the purpose of my presentation. What I will do now is just start covering a little bit about eligibility so that we're clear that people who live overseas are entitled to apply for the Windrush compensation and the Windrush compensation scheme and the Windrush scheme. You can apply from overseas if you are a Commonwealth citizen who is settled in the UK before January 1973, and you have, or you are representing the estate of someone who had previously lived and settled in the UK. or you can apply if you're a close family member of an eligible individual where there is evidence that there's been a direct financial loss and you wish to claim compensation from overseas. To meet the eligibility criteria, you'd need to provide evidence that you have settled in the UK prior to January 1973. And you also can apply, if you wanted to, if it wasn't for compensation, you can apply for documentation. If you were settled in the UK, but left more than 2 years ago, been out of the UK for more than 2 years, but you can apply for returning residence visa to return to live in the UK if you have strong ongoing ties to the UK. So that's the eligibility criteria. You're able to apply from abroad through to the Windrush help team. If it does incur an overseas charge, so if you did apply from overseas, you can ask for a callback and someone from the Windrush help team will call you back so that you do not incur any further charges. So it is possible to make an application from overseas, either digitally or in writing if you wanted to reply to the email address in writing. So over the next slide, please, Azar. So over the last 12 months, we have been engaging with British High Commissioners overseas, both from the Caribbean and wider than the Caribbean, including India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Ghana, Nigeria, as well as the foreign Commonwealth colleagues and UK VI colleagues, to discuss how best we can promote the Windrush schemes overseas. We've also fed into the CARICOM updates, which we update quarterly with updates on the Windrush compensation scheme and the Windrush scheme. And we attend the quarterly meetings. So we keep them abreast on generally what's happening in regards to the Windrush space. So we have held bespoke staff awareness sessions, arranging it through the Foreign and Commonwealth Office with our colleagues overseas in the British High Commissions, what we call people in posts, staff in posts overseas. We've run a number of sessions to raise awareness, twofold, to increase their knowledge about the eligibility and those who is eligible to apply, and encourage them to raise awareness in the communities they're aware of overseas. If they know of pockets of people who may be eligible, we're asking them to pass on the literature we'd shared with them to raise that. So we held awareness sessions in July 21 with the High Commissioners, the British High Commissioners in India. And then we did another follow-up awareness session with the British High Commissioners in Nigeria and Ghana. And then we invited the Pakistan and Indian and Bangladesh and other foreign and Commonwealth High Commissioners to join those sessions as well. And then we did a series of sessions targeted at the Caribbean. We held a session with Jamaica, and then we also held a session with the Eastern Caribbean islands. They all joined together in one dial-in, raising awareness of the information that I've just said about those eligible and encourage them to apply. Now, the feedback we got was we were raising awareness and making sure they're aware of what we're doing to raise awareness of people overseas, and asked them and invited them to do some follow-up work if they thought there was actually follow-up work and there were actually people that they wanted to target overseas. And we shared our comms literature with them. But the feedback we got from most of the High Commissioners were that they were aware of the Windrush scandal. They were welcomed having been in receipt of our literature, but they didn't ask for any follow-up work because they actually felt that the impact, those who were eligible, the numbers were low. So they actually agreed to take and cascade our overseas partner packs throughout the networks to raise awareness, but they didn't want to have any follow-up sessions. But there was one exception. We spoke to Jamaica and they were very much interested in doing some follow-up work to raise awareness in Jamaica. Their initial ask, they were interested in doing a series of regional events targeted at individual parishes and wanted us to dial into that. But as we've actually been discussing and liaising with them, they've now actually settled on a media campaign. They actually want to do a media campaign throughout the island, raising awareness, using our partner pack information to run some comms messages on their local radio stations and in their local media, their local newspapers, etc. We've agreed to meet the costs of that campaign. So we're speaking to our colleagues in the Foreign and Commonwealth Office to understand how we can make a payment for overseas media campaign. And we're actually in liaisons through the Foreign and Commonwealth Office with the British High Commissioners in Jamaica to do that media campaign. So as a result of our overseas engagement, we are doing further work with Jamaica High Commissioners, but the other High Commissioners overseas were interested in just taking the literature packs, but they didn't ask for any further follow-up work. They did, however, agree to cascade it on their social media sites and make sure that it's actually cascaded in their local offices. So if everyone came to the High Commission, they've got the most up-to-date information. As the next slide, please. We've also been working with the High Commissioners in London. We've spoken to the High Commissioners in the South Asian countries, as well as Nigeria and Ghana, again, to raise awareness. We've been trying to make contact with the Bangladeshi High Commissioners on many occasions, but there hasn't been an uptake on that yet. And it's fair to say that there hasn't been an uptake or an interest, of very huge interest for many of the High Commissions in London. But again, we work very closely with the High Commissioner in Jamaica, and we have actually supported a number of events. We provided literature and printed flyers and media packs for an event that they held in June. And we work closely with them, and we made them aware of the media campaign that's in the planning overseas. So we work very closely with the High Commissioners in Jamaica, but we do keep contact with the High Commissioners in London. We also continue to work through our trusted community voices. We've had videos made actually explaining the eligibility criteria in a number of different languages. And we've had that shared and put on GovUK, so that people can actually click into it and actually get information about eligibility translated into 5 different languages. I've actually got the languages here. As are the languages we're actually covering, it was Urdu, I've got it, Urdu, Punjabi, Bengali, and Gujarati. So we've actually had it translated into a number of different languages, and that's available on GovUK. So the last thing I would update that we're also doing alongside our engagement activities, we also have been cascading our media packs. So that's the last slide. So early this year, we worked with our comms team, and they actually started a new targeted media campaign, and it was targeted at communities wider than the Caribbean. And it ran in on local radio stations, Asian radio stations, to raise awareness. Again, it was translated, the adverts that were done was translated into other languages. And also we actually had Azar and David doing part of the media packs, and it was actually adverts was actually run on local radio stations to raise awareness in local communities overseas, over here, to raise awareness for people who were living in the UK or maybe living overseas. We also have an overseas fact sheet, which explains the eligibility criteria, which I summarized at the beginning of this presentation. And this has been shared both with the High Commissioners in the UK and overseas, spelling out exactly what the eligibility criteria is for anyone who's living overseas. We've had leaflets and videos, as I say, translated into the different languages, which is on GovUK now. And we've also been sharing that and all our information with our Windrush Community Fund groups, so that they have the information available and they can encourage people who may live overseas that they are indeed eligible to apply. I think that is the end of what we're doing, but it's just really just to say that we have in the last 12 months been continually working with the High Commissioners, both in the UK and overseas, to raise awareness and let them know that they are eligible to apply and encourage anyone they know to apply. It's fair to say that we've had the most uptake from the High Commissioners in London and overseas from Jamaica, have actually engaged with us and did welcome the sessions. And as I say, we ran many sessions throughout the autumn and winter last year, followed up by our media campaign. So that's what we're doing to raise awareness overseas. And it's something we will continue to do. And as I say, when we've actually got feedback, when we actually know when the media campaign is going to be run in Jamaica, we will keep you informed and we'll feedback to say that it is actually going live. So I'll take any questions in regards to that. So if there's anything else you'd want to suggest for us to do to reach people overseas.
Thank you, Angela, for that. Just before we go into Q&As on that, Mark Brett, is there any updates from the compensation team that you want to share with us?
So I think just from our end, I think we said last time about the close family members submission that was with ministers. So as of 6:10 today, that's been approved. So we'll be writing to people in future, which will be affected by the changes that we're going to be making to the scheme rules. I can't go too much into those right now, but we will be writing to those affected. I think just on, since last we've released the July fact sheet as well, which shows, 51.2 million offered with, I think, 42.2 million paid across, 1,000 claims, which I think is 51% claim have had a final decision now. And I think during the month of May, which is the last full month we have recorded, we paid out 1.7 million. Mm-hmm. So that's the updates from the compensation scheme.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think you've, I think we've wrong-footed Glenda Caesar. She's given a round of applause there as well. But before we come to the hands up, I had a question posed today. So Garrick, if you're on, because you did send that question in today, if you're on, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's just in connection with...
Garrick, one sec, Garrick, and then we'll go after that question to Glenda, Tamika, and then Gertrude. So, sorry, go ahead now, please, Garrick.
Yeah, it's just in connection with the low uptake for claimants, clearly in the UK, but I suspect even lower overseas. In my view, that's a failure on the Home Office in terms of the scheme. And I just wanted to know exactly how you want to improve the take-up. Now, I hear what you say, Angela, in relation to plan, scheme, etc. But clearly, you can see the numbers, very low take-up. There are lots of issues why the take-up is low, and we need to address those issues. Some of those issues relate to access to information. Some of those issues relate to, individual not able to articulate information, read information, and there need to be a better support system, both internal and external, in order to improve the take-up.
Yeah. Accepted. It's something we would always be trying to raise awareness to make sure that the take-up has improved. In regards to overseas, we work through our counterparts who are overseas, which is our British High Commissioners. If anyone wants to return to the UK, they would have to go through the High Commission offices. So we actually raise awareness with them and encourage them to keep on raising awareness in their local, amongst their local communities. That will continue, that will not stop. We will keep on making sure that they're kept up to date with the comms messaging and awareness overseas. Beyond that, we cannot make people apply. What we were actually told when we spoke to the high commissioners in these countries is that they wanted to, with the exception of Jamaica, they wanted to manage expectations. They didn't want to set hairs racing that people thought they were eligible when they actually turned out not to be eligible. So we give them the eligibility criteria. And I know Gertrude would like to come in on regards to that. Yes, I do know there's the issues with the 2 years elapsing. But yeah, there is the eligibility issue, but we could only work through them to actually say, how much would you publicize this? And then they would say how much they think the uptake is, because they do not want to be inundated with people who only end up not being eligible. But we will continue to work with them. It's our jurisdiction to reach overseas. It's through our high commissioners. And we have actually been engaging, and we will continue to engage.
Thanks, Angela. I mean, just before I go to Glenda Caesar, do remember that we have, as our part of our strategy, we've been looking at international engagement. And so, although we hear what you're saying, as an organization and someone who's been to, I know Glenda Caesar's been to Dominica and done direct engagement. I've been to Jamaica, and I get swamped every time I go to Jamaica, to the degree where I have to, try and go out in a disguise, in all honesty, where people don't want, because direct engagement is very different. And I think the initial engagement plan to go have something per parish, for example, it's on par. I'm not going to give away what the engagement plan is, but clearly I think what Garrick is driving at, we need to let people come forward, and Gertrude as well, let people come forward and experience what it is for themselves. But the problem that we've got is that high commissions, the British ones overseas, respectfully, there's no confidence in some of them. And the other issue is, I don't think the other commissioners really should be blocking or filtering it through, because the facts are, unless people can actually get that direct access, others are making decisions for them and giving people false hope. And I think, or misleading people. And then that reflects on you, the Home Office, as well, in all honesty. That's based on my experience in the Caribbean, which I've had that. And I'm going to it's just a comment I'm making. I'm going to hand that over to Glenda Caesar to ask her a question, but I'm sure Glenda's had similar experiences as well. Glenda.
Yeah, thank you, Desmond. There's no doubt about this. Can I just say to Mark, Brett, thank you very much. I'm happy to hear that. And I'm just hoping that this news will be in favor of the, sorry, someone is one thing. Yeah, I'm just hoping that this will be in favor of the close family members, or if not, then, I'll get involved again. But my question is to Angela. I note that you said that you've got the overseas are going out to the different countries, especially, the Asian countries. Well, there is a lady in my area who approached me, and she speaks Punjabi. Now, I don't speak Punjabi. Now, I can say to her to call up the helpline, but is there someone on the line who's able to speak Punjabi? Because it doesn't make any sense them coming forward and there's no one there to communicate with them. So is that in place?
Whether or not, I don't know if my colleague would be able to say if there's someone within the team, on the help team, because I don't work in the help team, who could speak Punjabi. But as I say, what we have done is there is actually videos covering the eligibility criteria in 5 different languages. And one of them is indeed Punjabi. So there is information on Gov UK translated into other information that she can access to talk her through the eligibility criteria. And it is just written, it is actually verbal. There's actually someone there speaking.
Okay, that's understandable. But if there's someone that hasn't got access to a PC to obtain this information, and they can pick up the phone and call a number, will there be someone on the other line there who's able to communicate with them in their language?
I will take that away and check that and have that confirmed. Azal, can you respond on that?
Yeah, there will be some colleagues who will understand. I'm not saying they will do full translation, Glenda, but they will get a basic understanding if the person in Punjabi will ring. There are a couple of Asian people working on the help team that will translate.
Okay, is it something that you can ensure that it's in place when I get this lady to make this telephone call? Because I can't speak it, but if she can able to speak to someone, get the forms, then I can assist her afterwards.
I mean, the other way to do it, Glenda, if you get the contact number and just send me the email, then I'll make some kind of arrangement for her to speak to someone.
Excellent. Okay, as I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bishop Desmond, there was a colleague who was asking about what has been approved with those changes that Mark Brett indicated policy. Mark, just before we get to the next question, Mark, I just wondered if you can just give us a general, what was the problem and what has now changed in terms of the approval in simple language?
Yeah, so I can't go into it too detailed because we need to read about lawyers, but in general, it was an issue around paying living costs that close family members paid on behalf of a primary claimant, which previously we might not have been able to compensate for the scheme. And as part of the submission, we're looking, to pay for those kind of costs. So generally speaking, and there are other things in there as well, but just don't want to go into too much detail at this time, if that's all right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Clive. I'll just go through a couple more in the chat as well, as you pointed me in that direction. Just a comment really from Beverly. The no response is because the Home Office is not very supportive in passing on the form and information. And then there's a comment here from Julia Davidson. The Home Office identified last time we were here that only 12 cases were found to have been impacted by the 2-year ruling, locking them out of the UK. Who is the nominated contact in Jamaica in order for citizens wanting to return to the UK from Jamaica? Angela, can I pose that to you and then we'll ask Tamika to ask a question?
So I don't know the named contact. We go through the British High Commissioner in Jamaica, and they have been very interested in engaging with us. So I haven't got a name to actually give you, but we actually go through our Foreign and Commonwealth colleagues to make contact with the British High Commissioners, and we've met. So they have been engaging. A specific name I cannot give, but I can confirm that we have actually been in regular contact with them, and they're very much interested in raising awareness overseas and doing some more work with us.
So that's the British High Commission in Kingston? In
Kingston, yes. Yes.
Okay, thanks for that.
They've also been interested in, doing more with us. So.
Thank you very much, Angela and Mark, and thank you guys for such an engaging meeting so far. However, I've got a few questions to ask, and it's regarding, you said that you've got contacts. Someone actually asked part of the question, who can we speak to in the British High Commission in Jamaica? Because I've got so many family members in Jamaica who should be returning to the UK. Thank God my mom actually got accepted and got called back, but that's after actually getting a lawyer in the UK who threatened to bring the Home Office to court. Then they respond to my mom and have her come back to the UK. Right. However, when we ring Jamaica High Commission to get this information, they're giving us a leaflet for an elderly person. A 90 or a 70-year-old is not so interested in a leaflet. If you don't have someone engaging them on the phone who can actually give them that information, it's next to impossible for them. And they just give up at the starting point. Right. Secondly, I would like to ask and find out, what are the qualifications for claiming compensation after you've paid so many immigration fees for your mother to return to the UK? She was then granted the right to come back to the UK as a returning resident. However, we both got the exact same letter that we're not qualified for not even the first stage of compensation. My mom has been trying to come back to the UK since I came to the UK 22 years ago, and she's never been allowed in. I have been impacted, my children been impacted, my mom, I've got a younger brother who's been impacted, and we've all got a compensation claim. Even my auntie who's lost a job while in the UK, we all got the same letter, exactly the same letter, only copy and pasting our individual circumstances, which is very off-putting to even start the process of applying for compensation. when we're all collating our letters together and realizing that it is exactly the same letter. None of us have been qualified. So I would like to know, what are the requirements? What are the eligibility in order to claim the compensation that everyone is trying to spread the word about? Because we're seeming, our family for sure is seeming to get nowhere. My mom is over the pension age. She won't have a pension because she's only been back in the UK for 2 years now, this October. And she's been told, no, you're not eligible to not even £1 of compensation. So what are the criterias? Because we're seeing
well, the criteria is what I've said there. But if they say that she didn't meet the eligibility criteria, I really couldn't comment on that. But what I won't want to take up and do is see if I can find a contact detail for the British High Commissioner, getting them to give us a named contact that we can share with you, so I could take an action in regards to that, because I know who we've been liaising with, but I don't know if that is a contact, the public-facing contact. That I will do. The individual circumstance of the case, why she didn't meet the eligibility criteria, I'm not cited on, because I'm not a caseworker, so I couldn't say. But I do appreciate what you're saying about the standard letters, though. I do not know why they can't write individually rather than a standard letter. But
can I just ask quickly? Sorry for butting in again. Can we just ask? They've given us a 2 months criteria in order to ask for a review with the compensation. If those 2 months elapse, how can we then go forward? Or do we just have to kiss the whole thing goodbye, not apply again?
Okay.
Is this is this so as I understand it, is this it's been through eligibility, or did it get past eligibility and it was like a nil compensation offer?
It said that we didn't meet the criteria. I don't know exactly what you're asking. It's just say thank you for submitting your Windrush claim. Your claim has been fully assessed. However, you didn't meet the criteria, and they go through all the necessary points that we've taken in account. You have claimed for immigration fees and legal fees. You have details. Basically, so I don't understand.
I think it sounds from that it's I think it's a confusing term, and I understand that. But I think it sounds like they've been determined eligible, so it's eligible for the scheme, but then not entitled to compensation. Now, if it goes past the 2 months for requesting a review under either eligibility or compensation, generally we will accept it past the 2 months. Should you choose to make a review after that time, under the scheme rules, it does say 2 months unless there's a reason why. And if you to provide, reasons why you couldn't do within that 2 months, it will be accepted by the Tier 1 review team.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Tamika, just to interject, I just need to clarify something. You said to contact you tried to contact the Jamaican High Commission. Do you mean the British High Commission in Kingston you tried to?
Yeah. Wrong way around, yes.
I just want to make sure that we've got that. And the other thing as well, just information, what we do when people contact us, if they're coming up to that 2 month deadline, we just write to the Home Office and ask for an extension as well. For whatever reason, because sometimes when someone comes, if we need to review the compensation claim, sometimes it will take a bit longer, because if we see things which have been missed or things that should have provided more greater clarity, and this is how with some cases we have increased the compensation offer. It's not been we've got one now which is still not acceptable, but at least it's been increased because we've sought to clarify the information. What I suggest, email us some information. Let's have a look at it and let's see what can be done, and we'll gladly take that up, because that's quite an interesting one.
Can I just add to that as well? We are planning a review of all our letters as well. So if there's individual feedback on what's good, what's bad, please do send that over, because it will form part of our review of them, and we'll help it for with you're dissatisfied, but hopefully for future customers and claimants, and we can make that better.
Yeah, and just Tamika as well, to add to that, I'm glad Mark actually reminded me. I took part in the justice report which obviously they're looking at some implementation there. And letters, the way letters were worded, and in terms of the use of just plain English so people can understand that is something that's being addressed. And I know that Justice are putting a team together to talk to the Home Office about implementing some of their recommendations as well. And if you go to justice.org, I think the report is there on their website as well. All right, and I think from WNO, it was myself and Glenda Caesar who sat on that as well. All right. Have we done with you, Tamika? If we finish with you, we'll go across to Gertrude. Thanks very much. Gertrude, good evening.
Hi, good evening. My internet's a bit dodgy, so I hope you can all hear me. I have several points to make. The first one is, how do the British High Commissioners know that the numbers of eligible people or individuals are low if they have not made any attempt whatsoever to do any kind of media campaigns, any publicity? As of yesterday, when I called Nigeria, there had been no radio adverts, no television adverts, nothing in the newspapers. So the British High Commissioners cannot say that the numbers are low because they have not advertised. So I've been asking you for over a year, you and Kate Ridley-Moy, to do a publicity campaign in Nigeria. And you've always said something about managing expectations. Now, if there are eligible individuals, their expectations are that they should be return investments. Now, in 2018, I flew to Nigeria after I heard about the scandal, flew to Nigeria, had meetings. I had meetings with people. I helped people fill out forms. All the people that applied from Nigeria were refused. But the ones that happened to come over here, make it over here, they applied from here, they were accepted. So that means there is a deliberate policy of refusing Nigerian applicants who apply from Nigeria. And I've been saying this since 2019, actually, I've been saying it. There is a deliberate policy. I have a pile of refusal letters, but if those people happen to come here, they are successful. So that's my second point. My third point is, I've been told that overseas victims who had lapsed ILR are not eligible for compensation. So if that's the case, the Home Office should just come out and say to everybody and stop wasting people's time. I've also been told by somebody very high up that if they had already been made an offer, they will honor that offer. But in the future, people from overseas who had lapsed ILR, they will not be eligible for compensation because they've been stitched up reinterpretation of the ILR, lapsed ILR. So I want that to be confirmed in writing somewhere, that people from overseas will not get any compensation, but they can come back to the UK. Because I'm just going round and round and round in circles. And I was told that in an email. Okay, so that's all I've got to say.
Yeah, I mean, we have, and we do continue to speak to the High Commissioners overseas, and we will raise that with them again and see if they're, but as I say, they are reluctant because what they say is they do not want to encourage people to apply, and they're not eligible, as you say, then they end up being refused. Doesn't mean we can't still continue to engage. We will continue to engage. We couldn't run a media campaign from the UK in Nigeria, but we could bring through our counterparts who are over there to represent the UK overseas. So we have to go through our contacts overseas, which is the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, which is working with our staff in posts overseas. We've done that. We've engaged with Nigerian High Commissioners overseas many, many times, but that is the response they get. They said they wanted it to be measured, they wanted it to be targeted, they didn't wish to bring up false hope.
Okay, so why are eligible individuals who lived here with me, who I grew up with, and my friends, parents, my relatives, my family, friends, why are they being refused when they apply? When they had ILR, they lived here, they grew up here, they were here for decades. Why are they being refused, but people from other countries are being accepted? I want to know why there is discrimination between various countries, why the Home Office is cherry picking. Why are my relatives and friends being refused when they have strong ties and they are eligible? I don't understand. So when you're talking about manage expectations, those expectations are you don't want more people coming from Nigeria because you just don't want more people coming from Nigeria. Expectations, if they had ILR, they were settled here in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and they had ILR, why are they being refused? And when they request a review, the review upholds the first decision is deliberate, and I will keep on fighting it. I want any eligible person from Nigeria to apply to be granted a returning resident visa, and I will not stop fighting. I take it really personally.
That's how
My
you feel
family
about
and
it,
friends
yeah.
have been excluded and exiled for decades, but other people applying from other countries get to come back, and my people don't. No, that is not going to ever be acceptable.
I'm not familiar with those specific cases, or if I am, I'm sorry, but if you do want to refer specific cases, you know, to us, we can ask the Windrush scheme people to look into it.
Yeah,
As I've asked
Mark,
many
it's
times. This has been going
Gabby
on for 4
Monks
years.
herself has been dealing.
This has been going on for years. Anything
Yes,
from
it
Nigeria
has.
refused. Yeah.
All right. I think that's something. I mean, Gertrude has been flagging this up for far too long.
She has.
And it is becoming unsatisfactory. Just for the record, in terms of our international conference, where I'll talk about later, the Nigerian High Commissioner has expressed an interest to attend. So clearly, somewhere along the line, there is a breakdown in communications there. Potential breakdown rather, but until we meet with him, we're not going to know what that is. But that's just to let you know, Gertrude, as well, that the last one, which we postponed until October, he has expressed an interest in attending. A comment from Julia Davidson is regarding feedback to the forum. All questions which are answered are placed on our website, and we direct everyone to the website. If there is a question there and anyone feels it's not been answered, then the way to deal with that is to contact us first, and then we'll check them to ensure that we sent it to the Home Office. And if we fail to do that, then we address that and ensure that it does go to the Home Office. But just for everyone to know that following tonight's meeting, what questions are in the chat or what questions have not been answered will be forwarded to the Home Office, and then the Home Office normally responds, and then we place that on our website. However, I do know that the person who looks after our website has been on holiday for the past few weeks. So, but would please double check, we'll double check that. Clive Foster, Reverend Clive Foster.
Thanks, Bishop Desmond. Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on what Gertrude was saying there. I think there are some things which is going to require an approach which is not going to be the civil servants to address this as well, and perhaps as well put in some other kind of a campaigning around this with regards to the overseas. I think there is things which the civil servants are required to do as well. And as part of the Windrush National Organisation, we do have as part of our strategy, there is an international engagement that we could be looking at. Because sometimes as well, one of these things is to do with, unfortunately, getting the data. Even with the Windrush issues in the UK, there was, the Home Office had figures in terms of numbers who they believed initially would be affected. And then they kind of use that as a predictor to throw in resources and so forth. And perhaps something that we can be doing as Windrush National Organisation as a campaign is actually asking for what are the numbers and expectations overseas they believe to be the numbers with regards to people. I know it may appear to be a small amount, but there might be some requirement for benchmarking that we need to be looking at with regards to this, because, and I think Nigeria would be, could form a sizable, if you just think that this whole situation is to do with undocumented Commonwealth citizens, and we were to look at the populace of certain Commonwealth countries who potentially could be affected, it may be that there could be a bit of co-production work around looking at campaigning and understanding the overseas situation in a way whereby we're getting a bit more targeted in terms of numbers and emphasis. We already know that a lot of people who are actually making these claims via the UK route are from Jamaica, and I think there is weight and merit in Gertrude's question in saying, well, why is the commissioner saying that there isn't, they don't believe there's any people there? And so I think there may be room for sort of looking at how we can sort of, what is the benchmark in terms of looking at the numbers of overseas.
Yeah, what they're saying is they're not saying that there isn't numbers over there. They're saying that those that they consider would be eligible would be small, because as you say, there is but it's caseworking. I really couldn't comment on, I hear what Gertrude's saying. She feels that there's a disproportionate number of people that are not getting through from Nigeria, whereas other countries on the same circumstances are getting through. In Gertrude's point of view, and it has been continuously, which our policy colleagues have actually said, have looked into it and said they disagree. I mean, yes, we could raise it again, but that has always been the standpoint, that they've actually said that there isn't a bias. It's just that they don't meet the eligibility. They don't meet the eligibility criteria. Beyond that, I can't really comment. I do not say that she must stop. If that is as she feels about it, then, you know, keep on raising it if you feel there is an injustice there. But it has been legal arguments, as Gertrude would know, that it has actually gone quite far, and they've actually maintained, the Home Office has maintained its stance. But beyond that, I really couldn't comment, Gertrude. Yeah, I do know. I know. Doesn't mean you should. I'm not asking you to stop. I'm just saying that is the Home Office's position.
I'm just saying it doesn't make sense. They have the same eligibility criteria as the people from the Caribbean and from Asia. So that doesn't make sense to say they're not eligible. They have strong ties here. They lived here before 1973. They had ILR. Why are they not eligible when somebody from Jamaica, Barbados, Guyana is eligible? Why are they not eligible when they have exactly the same circumstances? And some of them lived here much longer and came much earlier. Why are they not eligible? Because they're from Nigeria and they don't want them to come. Simple.
Yeah.
I've got a ton of refusal letters. I'm happy to send those refusal letters to Bishop or to Clive Foster, and then they can look at it and see what I mean. Why are they not eligible? When they lived here, I went to school with them. I know their parents. You know, my dad's brother died in Nigeria. He tried for years and years to come back. He died, never got his pensions. His widow has been fighting for compensation. And I have a feeling she's not going to get anything because of this new policy about not paying out to overseas claimants. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous. I know three of my dad's friends that died without coming back to this country and without receiving their pensions. What happened to their pension money? It's been stolen. Every time they tried to come back, they were told they couldn't come back. They would not give them visas. And then my age mates that I grew up here with, they went to Nigeria, got stuck out there. They should be back here, returning resident visas, but when they apply, no. So there's nothing the Home Office can tell me that will convince me that it's no discrimination against Nigeria. I've been saying this for 3 years. It's quite clear. And there's no policy under this earth. Is blatant discrimination. If you read the refusal letters, you will know what I'll send them to Bishop.
Yeah, please. I was going to say, Gertrude, if you send us those, that'd be good. And this is what, as well, why this conference we're putting together is important, because once we can get someone from Nigeria in the room, I'm sure that Gertrude will be there. Home Office will be there. The importance of this is that we can start looking into these issues and finding a way to deal with them, as opposed to just having the continuous conversation, because the continuous conversation can be stressful itself at times. Tamika, you've got your hand up. If I ask you quickly to ask your question, and then we'll go to Carl as well.
Yeah, thank you for acknowledging it. I just wanted to find out if there's anything done in the UK with regards to publicizing it tonight to the Nigerian community, because I totally hear what the other lady was just saying. Yes. Because I'm from a Nigerian community where my husband is from, and there are so many of them who are there thinking, up to on Sunday I went and helped a lady to fill the form out, still believing that the Windrush is for Jamaicans. I've helped a British Mauritius lady to apply through the Windrush scheme, and she's been refused. So what has been done even here in the UK to tell the Nigerian, the non-Caribbean community is still a part of the Windrush team, that this is also open to you guys. We've got a lot of them in our church, in our local church, whose parents are still in Nigeria, who work in the British transport and still not receiving a pension. And we rang the pension office here in the UK with one of my colleagues, and they told us explicit they're not entitled to it. When they were born, when they're children of Windrush generation family who were born in the UK in the 60s and the 70s. Yeah. What has the Home Office done here as well in the UK so that they can go and publicize this? The Nigerian and the African community is so big here. There's much more that can be done. I totally
Raising
agree.
awareness with the local community in the Nigerian community in the UK is definitely within the remit of my team. I've been speaking to Gertrude about that. It did go cold. My team have been trying to make contact and we haven't. Happy to raise an event and have it, raise awareness again and take that forward. Because we've actually been engaging, and we said we would arrange an event, but the message I got from my team is that we actually got no take up on that when we actually tried to make contact. We could bring it back up on the table, Gertrude. I do not mind.
Angela, the only solution to this is to get a television advert out there, what we've been saying from the beginning, in order for everyone to know what's going on. Sending paperwork to commissioners, we need an advert. This is something that's affected. It's a big scandal. Right. So we need something out there so people can say, oh, I have been affected. Oh, I can go to them. I can approach them. But the Home Office is not willing to fund a television advert. And it, to us, is direct racism because it's affecting people of color. That's the way we see it. So as the messengers, go back to them and say, these people need an advert worldwide so those who've been affected can come through. That's the only way. We're going to forever be doing these meetings, WNO, to push it through to people. But how many people can we reach? Whereas the Home Office has got the funding to do it properly. That's what we're asking for.
Right. Can I just come in there? Glenda, we did do a television advert. It's Ben TV, a Nigerian channel. Advert went on the Ben TV, an African channel in the UK. And we also did it on Islam channel. We also did it on Ham TV. That was the videos produced by myself and David. Were run in peak times throughout these satellite channels for about 6 weeks.
Yeah. I never saw you on ITV and BBC. Sorry, that's what I watched.
No, we didn't go to national TV. We went to local community TV stations and ran a campaign. Channels. Yeah, we did run campaigns. As I say, there was a media campaign earlier this year targeted at communities wider than the Caribbean. And David and Azar's videos ran on those channels for weeks. But no, it wasn't national TV. It wasn't BBC and ITV. No, it wasn't. It was radio and TV.
I think, thanks for that. I think all I'm going to say, add in there, COVID stopped us as an organization with our engagement because we've still got 20 cities we need to hit. And we've actually got new partners as well who can actually get into the Nigerian community as well. And we've developed, and I think moving forward, it's something that we have to look at. But I think that Gertrude has been raising this for quite some time. Gertrude, please send the letters through. Let's have a look and let's see where we can go with it.
I will do.
Carl, good evening. Please unmute and ask your question.
Yes, good afternoon all, good afternoon. My question is like this. The Windrush compensation scheme has been going on a while now. And you see it's ups and downs and so forth. And we also see that you were hit by the pandemic, which hold back things and vice versa. But we still campaigning. What I would like to say here is, does the Windrush compensation scheme have a time limit on it? And the second question is that people from the Caribbean and elsewhere who countries were British governed and has now been turned into independent republic, what is the criteria for after they've been turned into republic for those people living there? Are that criteria changed for those before and after? or it remain the same?
Staying remains the same. Even though the island may have become a republic, their entitlement to claim from overseas remains.
Remain the same.
It does. They don't lose that entitlement, but they still have to meet the eligibility, i.e. they've got to be eligible. But yes, they can apply from a republic island.
Okay.
Regards to a time limit, there's no time limit. It's now been relaxed. There's no end date for when you can apply for compensation. So if years down the road, someone says, I've just heard about it, that doesn't mean they're eliminated. They can apply at any time. Even if we're not actively publicizing it, there is a relaxation of the end date. There's no end date to the compensation scheme. And an update that Mark has given, but he actually didn't give that update today. We've actually also relaxed recently the end date for the Windrush scheme as well, documentation scheme. And there'll be information going out with the next release of the stats to confirm that that end date has been relaxed as well. So yes, as you say, people only hear about it when they hear about it. They will not be an ability to.
Just before I close, what is the how effective is our global collaboration in terms of that publicity that we need to spread the word where all people could be engaged or get the news that this thing is is still on, or the type of criteria that is there. So the collaboration globally, how effective is that in respect to the Windrush ethos?
Well, how effective it is, I mean, as I say, we keep on trying. How effective it is we don't know. I don't know how many people have actually come forward, but we do continue to raise it. We share the publicity material. There's overseas information that we cascade out through our high commissioners. Yes, as you say, go outside of the high commissioners, but being a government department, we have to work government department to government official overseas. And that is our inways into any overseas territory is through our high commissioners overseas. So we are utilizing an avenue to raise awareness open to us. Jamaica is willing to take it upon themselves to use their local media and do something. Other islands would have to, but they've all said they will share and cascade the information, but they don't want to do a publicity campaign. And why? Because they consider the numbers to be low, and so therefore don't want to raise false hope. That is the feedback we've been given from consulting, and that is the state of, that's where.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Mimi, can you turn your camera on, please, to ask your question? Okay, I'll move on whilst Mimi sorts out. Samuel Nelson, good evening. She's here now. Good evening, Mimi.
Yeah, hi. This is Mary. We're using the same platform. And I just want to add a bit to the mix, which I don't like hypocrisy and all the rest of it. And I'm all for Africa and its people. And that's where my support goes. And I would like the lady from Nigeria to understand why she probably is not getting any positive results. Because I saw Theresa May standing in the parliament one day. I was looking at my television some years ago before the lockdown. She said that Jamaicans and Nigerians, they don't want them and they're not giving any visa to them to come to this country. And that's maybe the reason why it's a government policy, why they're getting rejected every time they apply to come to the country, because the Prime Minister at the time said that they're not going to give visas to them to come to England. Thank you. I'm not hearing you. Pardon?
You're on mute, Des. You're on mute.
Apologies. Is there any truth in what Mary is saying, that there is a form of a policy not to grant visas to people from Nigeria?
There is
well,
no.
If you want to find out the truth, go back to when Theresa May was
Mary, please let her. Mary, please let her answer the question. You've asked an important. Yeah, let her answer it.
No, there isn't a policy that says they don't grant visas to people from Nigeria. There's the Windrush compensation, the Windrush scheme is a visa. There's actually many other visas and many other visas that can be applied for, including a visitor's visa, a student's visa. Of course, there's many different visas. We are talking about the Windrush compensations and Windrush scheme documentation at the moment, but there are visas of many different types and they are provided to people from Nigeria.
And they normally refuse them when they apply for them, yeah.
All of them, every single one, student visa,
No.
visa, work visa.
Yeah.
There's many
My uncle
visas.
applied for a visa.
I mean, yes. So
Yeah,
in
there are many
response to the question, yes, there are visas applied that they are eligible to apply for. If there's a blanket refusal, I'm not aware of it. So no, in response to Bishop Jadu's question, there are visas that can be applied for.
Okay, thank you, thank you, Angela. And that's something I think we'll look into once.
Yes.
Look into further once Gertrude sends us the information. Samuel Nelson, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. The mere fact that we are sitting on this platform tonight bears out a lot of what Gertrude is saying. The fact is, it's not only Nigerians. We are talking about people in England living here who have applied, who are applying, and are facing the same problem. The Home Office have caused this problem to become even more bureaucratic than it should be. People are struggling in the Black community. We were 2.5 years ago, I was one of these community engagement persons that engagement ambassadors, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
We've been out there, we've been plugging away, we've been trying, and people are not even relying on us anymore because somehow they think we're part of this scheme to keep the Home Office somehow justified in the actions that they're taking against us. And what we do not want, we need to support Gertrude. We don't need to question her because the truth is, even British applicants, I mean, when I say British applicants, they are all British applicants. I'm saying applicants in the United Kingdom living here who have been drastically affected are finding it the same problem. Their applications is not being processed correctly. We met a colleague last week who has been run around the mill, who have been kind of tied up with red tape. And the thing is, you know, is just sometimes one statement, and the application is thrown out. You know, it's like there's a way of trying to catch somebody out so that you can't apply. We are British.
Mm-hmm.
Those people in Nigeria are British. They were picked and they have been picked on today. And we have to come with more than just Zoom meetings and these things. We have to begin to stand outside the Home Office. We've got to begin to stand outside Parliament and begin to show this country that we belong and we shouldn't be begging. And I'm sorry, we cannot apologize for what is taking place because it's actually happening and it preventing us as the ambassadors in the community to try and raise it. Many people don't even want to bother anymore because of the problems that they're facing. And when other people are telling them that this thing's happening, people, Home Office, it's happening. Colleagues, it's happening. And we cannot justify it. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Samuel, for that. Thank you for that. And those comments are noted. And it is, I mean, as going back to what I've said, Gertrude has been, you know, at this now on these meetings, and these meetings have been running for nearly over 2 years. So, so Gertrude has been constant with this. We've got.
I'm sorry, just 1 minute, please. If anyone says to me that there's no racism at playing this is a lie, because that's the mere fact why we're here where we are today. That's why we had having this meeting today. If there weren't racism and this racist attitudes towards Black immigrants, then African immigrants, including West Indians and Caribbeans, what you want to call us, if there wasn't this concerted effort by the British government against us, this meeting would be taking place. And it's time we stop apologizing to Theresa May, Conservative, the Labour, the politicians of this place, and say, look, we're British and we don't deserve this. And in fact, we're not begging and we're not apologizing. It's time we stand up. We can't have this week after week, month after month, and people are struggling and dying without the compensation that we deserve. And it's become too bureaucratic for people. And I'm sorry I'm shouting, but I feel strongly about this now, because the more that we do is the more that is put against us. And if we're not careful, we're gonna have things that we begin to argue amongst ourselves and fight against Nigerians, Jamaicans, Barbadians, and so on. We're not gonna have this anymore. There's no divide and rule anymore. We are all facing the same problem. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Samuel. No, Samuel, no need to apologize.
No.
One of the things Clive said at the beginning, let passion step in, but let's do it respectfully, and well done, because you've just done what we've asked you to do. And that's why we're here. And did race play a part in it? I am of the same opinion as you, that race did have something to do with it. But we'll move on, because we've got about 5 minutes left, because we've got to do a quick briefing on the conference. So the last 2 questions this evening, and everything in the chat will be gone through, and I assure you they'll be submitted to the Home Office. So we've got first question from ECL. Can I ask you please to switch your camera on to ask your question?
Camera's not working, unfortunately.
I have a problem. I have a problem with that, respectfully, because we had someone turn the camera on before, and they were very, very disrespectful on the call. And
don't worry, trust me, I won't be disrespectful. All right, Garrick knows me, Roland knows me.
If there's something out of line, I'll cut you straight off. But please go on.
Okay.
I'll take a chance.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Respect. All right, trust works. Yeah. I was going to ask Angela a question. Is it Angela Wilson?
Yes, correct.
Okay, hi. The question I was going to ask, I lived through I keep asking this question because it bugs me quite frequently. Yeah, I lived through the 80s in the UK when it was very easy for minorities and especially Black people to be criminalized. All right. So going back to the question that Garrick asked earlier about the failure of take up, is it possible that within the Black community now, or a community in the UK, there are people who are criminalized in the 80s, 70s, 90s, 60s, who are afraid to come forward and take up this scheme? Because should they do so, yeah, it would mean that they're out or they're blah, 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 blah. So the question is, has the Home Office considered something like an amnesty to say, look, come forward, let's look at, yeah, compensation and status, let's sort one or the other out, and then we can decide whichever way. Yeah.
Yes, that is part of the, when we actually raise awareness, we actually say that shouldn't penalize someone coming forward and making a claim. It wouldn't mean that we will report them to the police, because it is actually ring fenced and it is actually dealt with as a compensation claim, and their details isn't shared with anyone else.
Okay.
Comes to saying a payment, yes, they do have a criminal past that will be taken in, and there may be a reduction or whatever, because if there's any criminality, but I can categorically say it doesn't prevent someone making a claim, and no, that information is not passed on to someone else.
Fair enough. Thanks for that answer. The flip side to that is, if the police could tell me that if I was a 14-year-old and I was criminalized, yeah, that's on my record, all right? So they've got the information. So why is it the Home Office can't put out the same information about the individuals who are potentially victims in this whole situation, to say, look, let's speak with these individuals and see where they fit into this whole saga?
So what is the suggestion that the Home Office does then? Use information.
Is the Home Office able to gather information by individuals who are in the UK who've been criminalised, who potentially could be part of this process and currently stepping out or sitting out of it?
I'm not sure that that would be a proper use of police data that the Home Office hold.
It's not proportionate. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks
Police are
for
not
that.
allowed to share data for other reasons than policing. So no.
I understand. I understand. Thank you.
And I want to thank you as well for your questions and also you know, being true to your word. One of the things is that we did a direct a few years ago meeting, I think when Dan Hobbs was there in Ilford, and a lot of these issues came up, particularly because of Operation Swamp back in the 80s, where there were a lot of people in the room who were criminalized, some of them unjustly, and it stopped them from getting their citizenship and their compensation. And I think this is an ask that I've asked before, and I think this is where I didn't get his name, ECL was going with this, is that some people, the Home Office isn't in a position where they are recognizing in some cases the injustice of the criminalization from the 80s and the impact of things such as Operation Swamp, for example. And that's where he's going with that, and the mistrust which has developed against the Home Office. Well, I think what he's saying is there are people who just will not come forward because of that complete mistrust of the system, particularly when you look at the past experiences as well.
Correct. Yes. And that is one of the barriers to people coming forward. We do understand that, but we could only keep on saying the message that the information would not be passed on. It will be dealt with as part of the compensation claim only. But when it comes to the settlement, if they're found to be eligible, yes, it will come into play then, but it doesn't in any way hinder or prevent them from making a claim. So I can't stress that enough.
And Bishop, my name is Egbert.
All right, thank you for that, Ed. Thank you.
Egbert, yeah, thank you.
Egbert, right, thank you for that.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Last two questions, because I know Herman's had his hand up and he's gone down several, and he's dropped out. So Iwaldo first, good evening, Iwaldo, and welcome back to our meetings. And then after Iwaldo, Herman. And then that will be one of the questions.
My problem is the Home Office has decided indirectly that they created a problem, but they're now choosing what or whom to pay compensation for. Indirectly, Theresa May, when she accepted liability for everything she did to the Windrush community. And yet the Home Office is only festering on one political part, and that is losses. They're not paying for the years that you've been incarcerated, denied access to something that belongs to you. Even if they find out indirectly they had wrongly accused you, they are still not willing to pay compensation for the years that they've kept you landlocked. How can that be?
The loss.
Okay, can we take?
Yeah.
Sorry, Angela. Can we just take Herman's question as well, and then you just I deal with the two of them. Gentlemen, you'll be able to come back if you need to.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm sorry I've been flitting in and out. Just one of those days with a connection. Just a quick question. I had several others, but I have to email those in. I know there was some work being done with a unit with regard to those in the armed forces that before they were about to leave, as it were, I think there was about 28 weeks they were supposed to be set a sort of limit with regard to inform them with regard to if they were interested with regard to taking up the residency. I think we heard about it in May. I know June, I don't think we actually had a meeting engagement, did we? So I just want to know, it was supposed to be a policy to be carried forward, I believe, to be ready by the end of the summer. What progress has been made with that at all? You know, what progress has been made with that for people in the armed forces who are about to leave the armed forces with regard to their residency in the UK? What's actually happening with that? How has that been developed? I know two in the team got back to me with an answer in May, but as of yet, I haven't heard anything else. And I know Azard's been very good to coordinate some messages when I've tried to send those through. So just that question for now. I have a few hours, but I'll have to email those in, please. Angela, or anyone from the team there. Thank you.
Yeah, we could
Thank you very much.
in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So Angela, Iwaldo's point that he made first, and I think you're saying that you'll get back to Herman on his.
Yeah, on the veterans, what is happening in regards to the veterans.
Okay, thank you.
I forgot what Eduardo's question was. Was his question?
It was about choosing. It was about Iwaldo's question was about that a liability was admitted by Theresa May, and people the compensation scheme is choosing who to pay and what to pay for without really recognizing this. I'm just paraphrasing it. The severity of the severity of the trauma that people have really experienced during their journey.
Again, I mean, Mark.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think it comes down to what the scheme is there for and what, you know, the ministerial mandate is to what we're compensating for under the scheme. And that is losses due to an inability to demonstrate lawful status. And if, you know, there is an extended period of being, you know, detained due to an inability to demonstrate lawful status, you know, not only do we factor that in, you know, detention characters, we factor that into the impact on life. But when it comes down to, you know, prison for other reasons, you know, for criminality and things like that, that just isn't part of that's just not part of the compensation scheme.
That's not the question I asked. The question I asked was, you created the problem. Theresa May accepted liability, yet the Home Office is only paying for losses, monies. They're not paying for the time element where you kept someone or denied someone access to, say, their passport for 13 years. There's no compensation for that. So therefore, what is this a compensation scheme fit for purpose? Because indirectly, you're responsible for pensions, for loss of home, all those things intertwined. And yet the Home Office saying, hands up, oh, we're not responsible for this, we're not responsible for that. But indirectly, you're responsible for everything you've done to anybody that's part of this scheme. So therefore, I don't think this compensation scheme should be held by the Home Office, because they're not true to their word, because indirectly, a lot of people has issues that the Home Office won't even touch. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Iwaldo.
I think I would add that for things like, you know, not having passports and things like that, it's not just financial impacts we do cover. You know, the impact on life category is solely for non-financial impacts, you know, so whether that be inconvenience, you know, emotional impacts, you know, mental health, physical impacts over, you know, an extended period.
You're not answering the question. You're dilly-dallying around it. Impact on life, you can't even put a figure on that. And the figure you put on it is so low, it's laughable. Now, for the years you kept certain people denied access as a British subject to what's truly theirs, and yet you're not willing to pay compensation. We know that you know how many people you've actually indirectly affected because it's all in your documentation. When I applied to the Home Office through the Passport Office for my right of abode, I was told I wasn't, although I came here in 1959. Antigua and Barbuda had a white paper. Not one of your people looked at that white paper to state that in 5 years after Antigua became independent, they automatically regained their citizenship. We didn't have to reapply, but you guys indirectly put a lot of us under due pressure. Oh, have I gone?
No, you're not.
Back.
Put us under due pressure, and now you will not pay compensation, because indirectly it's another effect where you make the decisions. We do not have no input ourselves into the compensation scheme. So therefore, the compensation scheme is not fit for purpose. How can you turn around and tell someone they're not due to their pension, when indirectly you created the problem for those people not to contribute to their pension, but you're not willing to pay? I end my story now.
Okay, thanks for that, Iwaldo. Tamika, I'm sorry, you won't be able to ask another question because we've come up to 8:30. The whole issue here is one of the reasons why we do these meetings, so people can clearly comment about how they feel. And I think the point that Iwaldo has made, maybe it's something, Angela, for a discussion with the policymakers as well in terms of the scheme, because I hear what he's saying, because he's talking about a category. If someone is eligible for a British passport today, having gone through the scheme, that means they would have been eligible 10 years ago, for example. And they see it as he sees it as denial to access to a British passport, which he says clearly he's entitled to. And where's the element to compensate?
No, you're all getting it wrong. If you hold a British passport and all you wanted to do was renew that passport, and then you were put into this situation where you'd been denied access to that, which is rightfully yours. I held a passport from 1974. I'm a British subject from the day I was born and when Antigua went into independence. And yet there's no compensation scheme for anyone like myself.
Right, I've got it. Yeah, it's something that we're talking to some of our elders about, just to let you know, Iwaldo, I know what you're asking now. Particular ones who came here from Jamaica, for example, like my father-in-law came here in 1955 on a British passport, and then he was asked to repurchase what he came here with in the first place. Get what you're driving at. Yeah, and that's something that it's an argument we've used in the past, and it's something that clearly we've got to look into, and I'll make a note of that as well, because it's something that we have to really look at moving forward. But I want to thank everyone this evening for their engagement on the platform. It's 20:33, and just if you can bear with us just for 5 minutes before I just ask Reverend Clive to wrap up, is just to let you know that we've got our international conference on the 28th of October in Birmingham. It'll be at the East Side Rooms in Birmingham City Centre. Now, importantly, it's an opportunity really for the public, the campaigners, the Home Office, and the High Commissions will be invited rather as well. We've got commitment at the moment from Nigeria, Ghana, Bangladesh, the CARICOM commissioners as well. And we've got a commitment from Haiti as well. They want to attend the conference, and there are a couple more as well that have expressed an interest to attend the conference. And the Home Office will be attending, so you probably get to meet Angela and Mark, I assume. Not too sure. I'm not going to, whoever they decide to send. We have also put a request in for the minister to attend as well, but there's a little thing going on at the moment of selecting who the new Prime Minister is, and that new Prime Minister will undoubtedly be selecting who they want to be ministers moving forward as well. So that decision it is of interest, I will tell you. I think I'm able to share that. However, no commitment can be made until after a short time after the 5th of September, when the new Prime Minister is announced. So it's just to let you know that as well. The admission to the conference will be free. There will be some limited tickets available from the weekend, which will be available on Eventbrite. Please look at our Twitter and Facebook pages for the appropriate links to register there, and registration will be on a first come, first serve basis. WNO members who are on the call tonight, please do not register on the Eventbrite, because we have made provisions for the WNO core members. So please, no need for you to register whatsoever there. And obviously, all myself officials, please don't register. And that's where we are. In addition to that, as you know, the WNO is not funded, and the Home Office is playing their part in supporting this conference as well. On the evening, however, we will be having a fundraiser dinner gala to raise money for our work and also to help people caught up in the Windrush scandal, because we've been providing financial support for people over the past couple of years from donations that we've had, for example, from JCWI and from some actors as well who raised money and gave it to JCWI for that money to be disseminated as well. So we've been supporting people in our local communities. And that will be on the evening at the same venue as well. And there'll be more details out from the weekend. If you are able to, please do support the work that we're doing, because one of the things we'll be embarking upon very shortly is renewing our strategy, which will be ready for October, but also as well, we'll be embarking on with a face-to-face national tour at some point. So we're going to need the funds to do that. As I've said, we've got a list of 20 cities around the UK where we know that people from the Windrush generation do live there. And I hasten to add, not just people from the Caribbean, people from the Asian subcontinent, African subcontinent as well. So just to let you know that. And we've had this list for 2 years and we were told it requires face-to-face. So we'll be embarking that as well and looking at the international engagement as well. So it's Friday, the 28th of October. The conference will be 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. And then our gala dinner will be, or a dinner dance fundraiser will be 7 p.m. until 2 a.m. So that's just to please note that in your diary and look out for the links on that. And that's all I'm going to say to you this evening. Thank you very much. And before I hand over to Reverend Clive, we will go through the Anne-Marie Dillon. Yes, Anne-Marie, that will be opened at the weekend. Just spotted that question there. And I rest assured we'll take the chat out of here, and where the questions are, we will forward those to the Home Office. And please look out on our website. That is where all the answers are posted as we get them from the Home Office. This video will be downloaded over the weekend and it will be on our YouTube channel available on Monday morning. So thank you very much. Reverend Clive, back to you.
Thanks, Bishop Desmond, and thanks everyone for attending this conference, and special thanks for our Home Office staff who've come along tonight, and for all of you who have supported and been here as well. And as we mentioned, this is an extended online engagement around an important issue, and I have to say I really like the level of challenge, debate, questions, and then comments that's been given tonight, and thank you for doing that. And we put on these events because we know that there is still an issue, and we want to do what we can, however we can, to try and solve that as well. So at this time, we're just going to close by how we started. So those of you who want to join at this time, we're just going to have a closing prayer, and then we'll be able to close this meeting. Those of you who wish to join us in prayer, shall we pray now? Father, we just thank you again for your goodness and your mercy towards us. Father, we just ask that you would keep us safe and that you would keep us under your care and in your will. We thank you that you've given us this day. We thank you for all your provisions towards us. Lord, we know that you're a God of love, justice, and peace, and we ask, Lord, that you will continue to guide us, give us your wisdom, understanding, and strength through these times. Remember our respective families, our communities, and our nation, and indeed our world. And we thank you for your continued mercies towards us. In Jesus' name. Well, thank you again, everybody. And as always, please stay safe. And we look forward to joining with you again at our next engagement this time next month. Take care and have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Good night. And thank you to the Home Office.
Yes, thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Sweet dreams.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night now.
Good night, everyone. Have a great week ahead of you.
Bless you.